You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Hey, what's good, everybody? It's a Thursday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Betano. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with you. What's going on, Rosie? How are you, buddy?
Tiger Woods, y'all. Oh, I can't wait to watch this man tee off exactly when our podcast ends. I'm so excited. My heart is so full this morning.
Man, what's the fascination with a guy who plays once every 6 years now? Like, he's always hurt. There's always an excuse. I love Tiger 15 years ago. Don't get me wrong. But, like, what's the fascination with this guy?
Every time he swings the club, I could just watch him walk across the parking lot. Like, don't take the camera off the guy. Don't tell me what it is, man. I don't know. But when you're that friggin' unbelievable, you just soak up every chance you get to watch him play golf because it's going to be gone one day here sooner than later. So fans of his just want to see him every shot.
It really is incredible because it's long removed from the days where this guy, and I talked about Michael Schumacher a couple of weeks ago on the program, how like every tournament he was winning back in his heyday. Like, it was insane. And I think there'll never be anybody like Tiger Woods. But the draw that this guy still brings to any place he golfs is still insane to me because, like, he's very pedestrian. It's not like the rest of the tour is concerned or scared that Tiger Woods is playing. Like, that allure is worn off, no?
Well, they've been saying that for years. He won the Masters in 2019. It's not that long ago. I mean, it is the Masters. He's Tiger, and like, don't count him out. Every time they count him out, he ends up doing something that's special. And just watching the guy, like, there's an aura about him, man. I went to Pebble Beach to watch him play in 2010 in the US Open, and just watching that guy get out of his car, come down the steps, and just walk to the putting green. It's just like I could meet anybody, man, and not care. Like, I could meet Tom Cruise or meet a president and just be like, hey, here's a guy. How you doing? I don't really get all celebrity, but Tiger, I'd just be like, just shaking, man. I don't know what it is. I'm a total fanboy. I'm a schoolgirl.
I get it because you were excited about what tournament is this?
This is the Hero World Challenge. So it's down in the Bahamas, no cut event. And yeah, we'll see what Tiger's got. They're going to be watching him every shot, though.
Hey, did I tell you, remember last week I was in Jacksonville? Did I tell you that my buddy's house was 5 minutes away from TPC Sawgrass?
No.
We drove by it. I'm like, what is that place? He's like, that's TPC Sawgrass. And I guess like the PGA headquarters are in Jacksonville. I had no clue. Like, my buddy gave me a bit of a tour around and I'm like, that's TPC Sawgrass. Like, I didn't associate it with it being in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's down there. Florida's a absolute golf hub, man.
Yeah.
It's lots to do down there, lots of courses to play, and TPC, the home of the Players Championship, obviously is one. The prices of those nice courses have gotten absolutely out of control. I remember when Pebble Beach was $400, and that was like, oh my gosh, can you believe it? Now I think like TPC's charging like $650 US. It's just gotten out of control. So kind of shitty when regular people want to go play those cool tracks, but is what it is.
You ever been to Glen Abbey?
No, I haven't been to Glen Abbey. Always wanted to. I think Angus Glen is where we had our pre-season.
I think it was Rattlesnake, no?
Golf tournament. I don't know if that's when I was playing. I thought it was Angus Glen, but nonetheless,
Maybe.
There's some cool courses around there, but I have not played Glen Abbey.
So the funny story about Glen Abbey, my family home, my parents still live there, is like 5 minutes away from Glen Abbey, but the closest I've gotten to actually going to that tournament, like watching it, it's no longer there, as we know, but I remember I ran a parking lot one year. My buddy's uncle like ran a business, and I think he owned like a Dairy Queen or something. And he's like, just make sure people don't park here. So what do you think I did?
Traded tickets for parking.
No, I fucking charged for parking spots. It was like, I made a ton. Like, this guy had no clue. I made like $300. Like, I did 4 straight days and I made like $300 a day selling parking spots when I should have been telling people not to park there. It was the funniest screw job of all time.
Well, you are a greasy little weasel, so I'm not surprised.
Very greasy, but it was always an event in Oakville every year when some of the best came. Like, I remember back in the day, Tiger was like routinely there. I think it fell in line with the other tournaments on the tour, but Tiger was there and there was a buzz in the city. And anybody who's been to Oakville, Ontario, like, it's not the biggest city, but when the tour used to come there, like, everybody was ready for it and people were buzzed and pumped up about it. But again, I always like to tell people, like, Tiger Woods in his heyday, I'm not even a big golf guy. Like, there's nothing like it. Like, I was going to ask you, like, what's the equivalent in the NHL world? Like, who in the NHL world would get you feeling that way if you met them?
Oh, only Wayne, man. Like
Yeah,
Wayne and
you
only
met
Wayne.
Wayne.
I know, exactly. And like if we had Tiger on our pod, it would be a different story. But it's just I don't know what it is, man. I like golf a lot. That guy just has some walking legend status, and it does suck that his reputation's been so tarnished with the injuries and the DUIs and the arrests and the infidelity and the crash in the car. And just, Jesus, man, he's made it hard on himself, but he's still grinding away out there, putting himself in tournaments. I love it.
I heard the guys talking about him on Overdrive. He's 48. Like, I remember when that guy was like 25, man.
I know time ticks. You're getting old too.
I know. It's like, holy shit, what's going on? Nonetheless, we got a hockey game to talk about here at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcasts. Again, if you're watching right now, I don't know what's going on with the algorithm. We've got 1 billion people watching the show. Nobody's liking it for some reason. So hammer that like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We just continue to bring the heat on this show. And we're bringing it again today. Speaking of golf, big-time golf fan. He's the host of the NHL on TSN. James Duthie's going to pop by in about 20 minutes or so here.
Love it. We're rolling through the TSN guest panel today, which is awesome. Always good to hear what those guys have to say. And Duthie will be one of the top brings so far.
Yes, and we're going to talk about the Maple Leafs and what they do moving forward. Brought to you by DoorDash. It's time for the appetizer. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off, up to $10 in value, and 0 delivery fees in their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app. Enter code NATION25. That's code NATION25. Uppercase, 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms apply. So Sheldon Keefe confirming yesterday it was a hand injury. It is a hand injury for Mark Giordano. He'll miss Thursday's game and beyond that. The extent is not yet known. What's your level of concern? Again, we talked about this throughout the last couple of weeks. Like, this team weathered a big-time storm last November. They're going to have to do it again with 3 regulars out in the back end.
Yeah, it's rough, man. Tells me that Gio broke his hand.
Oh, wow, you're a doctor now.
Well, if it's you see Paul Ayotte, the head medical trainer there, going talking to Sheldon Keefe, giving him the news that made him roll his eyes and say, "God damn." To me, if it was like a ligament or you don't know, you got to see how it feels when you wake up. MRI, blah blah. To me, that's you go to the back room, get an X-ray, broken hand, easy. Go tell the coach he's out for X amount of time, and that's what it tells me. Obviously, kind of a guess, but for that to be that kind of a report to the bench right away, and a hand injury tells me that he probably broke it, probably 4 or 5 weeks, depending on what bone and what top hand, bottom hand, how much pressure that thing takes during the course of a game. So it's brutal, man. It's the same. It just seems like Groundhog Day sometimes with this team, with the inconsistency and the injuries. And I'm sure all teams go through it. It seems like, the Leafs tend to take it a little bit where they're weak, and that's on their back end. So yeah, they're going to have to battle. But on the positive side of things, it gives some guys further down in the depth chart opportunity to, show what you got. A lot of times, big contracts, big careers, people's names get made out of opportunity like this, where, oh man, we got a guy that we didn't realize he was ready to take this kind of a jump, and the curtain opens, you can take the stage and see what you can do with it. So a big opportunity for some of the guys further down the line to step up to this decor, and we need them to do so if we're going to keep rattling off wins and staying up there in the standings.
Rosie, call me crazy, but I think the injury to Mark Giordano is a blessing in disguise. Like, what was the one takeaway from Gio's postseason? He was tired. He was fatigued. And I think this allows a 40-year-old to rest. Like, I know that could be an insane take because they need blue liners, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for Gio to be down right now. Like, you need him for the springtime. You need him in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And if this truthfully means a fresher Mark Giordano, I'm all about it, man. I know it's a different stance. It's a different take, but that's the way I looked at it. I'm like, this is actually probably pretty good because they're going to run him into the ground. They were trending that way.
Yeah, I mean, you could take it as glass is half full and say that. I don't think if you were to stand here 4 days ago and say, hey, we can injure Mark Giordano right now or not, you're not going to say, no, I think it's best if we do. But since it's happened already, you could look on the bright side and say, hey, at least he's going to get some rest. I would prefer the rest to come, more in the month of March type thing. Get him some some blows there and
Load
see if he
management.
can rest his body up. But what's going to happen in late November, early December, I don't know. But yeah, you're taking the miles off him for sure. But it does hurt. He gobbles up some minutes. He plays some solid D. He's a guy you don't notice all the time because he's in the right places and clearing the puck out of the front of the net and getting it up ice to the forward's hands. So we'll see. It's going to be some healing. And like I said, some guys need to step up just the way they did last year as well and hold down that back end.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think the team really, really rallied last year with the notable injuries to Morgan Riley, TJ Brody, and luckily for them, like Riley's still in the mix, and he's been incredible. I thought he's fantastic the other night. TJ Brody obviously needs to step up. Jake McCabe, like those are the big three horses they're going to ride here in the interim with all these injuries. But I do see a pathway. Like I know everybody's talking about a trade. They want to trade this and trade that. But last time I checked, Calgary's winning games. Who else are you going to deal with? The Columbus Blue Jackets? Like, I think it's way too early. We're at the quarter pole of the season where anybody outside of San Jose and Chicago are going to throw the towel. I think you're insane. I think that the long game has to be the play here for Brad Treliving and company, unless you want to hit the waiver wire. And there really hasn't been any appetizing names for me on the waiver wire. And then if you have the waiver wire, you got to make decisions when guys come back. Like it becomes more difficult from that aspect, especially for a team in the cap world. I think you have to exercise patience here. I know everybody's calling for a trade. I just don't think it's that easy, Rosie.
No, it's not. And I mean, the waiver wire, you're not going to get anyone of real value on it, or they wouldn't be on the waiver wire. You want someone, in the position of Calgary, like with how many guys do they have on their back end that are coming up pending UFAs? Some of them have already asked for trades. And to me, I don't really think it matters. I want to ask Duthie about this, but whether they're in a playoff hunt or not, they're not going to go. They're not going to be Stanley Cup contenders. They're not going to hold these guys and lose them for nothing just for the sake of sneaking into the first round. But stranger things have happened. I do like how last year they rallied. We put some runs together, got some wins with some depleted lineups and, goaltending situation. If you remember with Shalgren coming in and really holding down the fort and keeping us in position. We need more of that this year, but injuries are inevitable. But like you say, McCabe and Brody, Morgan Riley, those guys got to step up in a leadership sense too. They got to take control out there and really have that veteran presence that you're going to be missing with Gio out of the lineup.
It's pretty simple why Calgary would wait, like a team like Calgary would wait till the deadline. Number one, teams will accrue more cap space. I think more teams would be involved, and teams would probably give you more than you're expecting or getting right now just because of the lack of cap space around the league. Like, I think it's pretty simple. I'm right there with you. Like Calgary, if you're thinking you're winning a Stanley Cup this year, outside of Ryan Pinder, you're sadly mistaken. It's just not happening for that team. That's a shot at Pinder, by the way. But like, I totally agree. I just don't think Craig Conroy is going to be forced into a decision to trade a Tanev, to trade a Hanifin, to trade a Zadorov right now. Like, I think you want to build up a market, and obviously the other side can come at you and say, hey, well, Tanev plays the game so hard, he's jumping in front of pucks, taking it to the face. He could get hurt, but you could say that about every player in the league before they get traded, no?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the ball's in Calgary's court, right?
Sure,
And that's probably the problem with Treliving. You know that he's already worked the phones, expressed, some interest and tested the waters, and he doesn't want to come off desperate or, whoever he's dealing with is going to rake him over the coals. So that's probably why nothing's happened yet. It is rare to have a big blockbuster happen unless both sides can see a major benefit of pulling the trigger at that particular time. And like you say, I just don't think Conroy has a huge reason to pull the trigger right now. Like the only reason he would is because Treliving would be begging him to do so. And why would he do that? It's just gonna put him in a vulnerable position to not get as much back in return, or to rake him over the coals and have the lopsided deal. So it's probably going to be, after Christmas type thing. And like we said, we're going to need other guys in the lineup and the depth chart to step up and get it done for the foreseeable future while we got these injuries.
Yeah, I think you have to simplify your game. I think there's going to be an assessment period for Brad Treliving to see, hey, what do I truly have? Can we get by with this lineup? And then go from there. As you see on your screen in a piece for Daily Faceoff, Matt Larkin outlines 7 potential D options. He's got Chris Tanev, Andrew Peeke of Columbus, Alex Carrier, Nikita Zadorov, also of Calgary, Will Borgen of Seattle, who you might see tonight, Mario Ferraro with San Jose, Travis Sanheim comes with hefty term and money on his deal. So suffice it is to say, there's not many names outside of the guys that everybody wants, right? Like, I know we're in a bubble here in Toronto, but everybody wants Zadorov. Everybody wants Tanev. Like, these are going to be the hotly contested names on the back end leading up to the deadline, unfortunately. Like, it just doesn't mean the Leafs are going to get these guys because they're interested.
Yeah, and I've been talking to people in the league, and they're
Have
like,
you?
don't get Zadorov, man. He makes the big hit once
Who are
in a
you
while
talking
and can
to?
move the puck. Oh, just sources, secret sources. But they're like, oh, he goes brain dead out there all the time. Like, you don't, I wouldn't put a lot of faith in him. Hanifin and Tanev, I think, are better choices from what people are saying. I might be going to the Flames game tonight. They are
Okay.
playing the Dallas Stars, so I'm going to get some firsthand scouting for this pod, and I'll let you know what I find out.
Wow, that's great information. So
It's
bring that to the table
commitment.
next week because you're not with me till Tuesday now, right?
It's a level of commitment that I
Yeah.
put in. It's my time. It's my personal
Yeah.
personal time. But I'm committed to this podcast and to this team, and I'm going to do my best for them. Do a
If
little
I look up the
scouting, like
word
I said.
commitment, I would find that ugly mug of Jay Rosehill. That is accurate information. Dave Brotherston writes in, Calgary will probably want Minton or Cowan from us. That will be the hard part. Yeah, that's a big topic of conversation in this market right now too. Is like, yeah, you want to make a trade, but what are you ready to give up? Like, how much does the brain trust believe in this Maple Leafs team? That's the question too, right? Like, you want to get some of these guys. Are you going to depart with a Minton, an Easton Cowan? You scoffed earlier in the year when I brought it up. Easton Cowan. Are they lubing this guy up for a trade? Hell yeah, they are. Like, who are they going to give up? Right?
Well, you don't get anything for free in this business. You got
No.
to give something of value, and I imagine it will be something in the prospect chart because the Calgary Flames. They might need to get a refreshed looking roster. They've had some turnover in the last couple of years that almost looked promising, and Flames fans had a reason to stay excited, even though with the departure of a couple of key pieces, it has not worked out for them. I know they're playing a little bit better here recently, but man, they went from like a powerhouse in the West to like a disgraceful start, and they got issues all over the place. So I wonder what they're going to want, but I imagine it'll be someone for their kind of, I guess, if you want to call it a rebuild or the
Yeah.
restructuring, and get some young guys that can come in there. They'll be in a new building in the next few years, and I think they'll want to start that off with a bit of a bang. And they're not going to be giving away their prime D-man for free. I promise you that.
Calgary's in a good spot. I tell you, whenever the Toronto Maple Leafs are involved, the price tag goes up like tenfold. I think Craig Conboy is in a really, really good spot when it comes to some of his pending UFAD if he wants to move them. Tammy writes in, I'd give up Minton. That's the conversation I'm sure we'll have over the next couple months leading up to the trade deadline. Wendy's is letting you win real food with your fantasy teams this year with the Wendy's Daily Face-Off Survivor Pool. Sign up to play the Daily Face-Off Survivor Pool to win weekly prizes like the new chicken strips and French toast sticks from Wendy's and the Wendy's app. Head on over to dailyfaceoffsurvivor.com to play today. Dailyfaceoffsurvivor.com. So it's the Leafs and the Kraken. And Rosie, Toronto's taken 3 of 4 lifetime meetings with the Kraken.
Irrelevant to me. To me, it's all, what have you done for me lately? Who's playing hot at the moment? Who's got the injuries? Who's got the reason to be chomping at the bit? We'll see. I think it'll probably be a pretty good close match game. The Kraken's not lighting the world on fire by any stretch, but neither have the Toronto Maple Leafs. But like we talked about yesterday, the consistency and the attitude towards the game and the work ethic and the intensity level, if they can find a little bit of that, they can put some pieces together here to go on a run. But man, they've got to shore up their consistency. We've talked about it ad nauseum, and today's a good opportunity to try to put down a good 60-minute effort and put a foundation down to start playing well going into the Christmas season here.
Lineup notes, looks like Bobby McMahon's going to come back in for Ryan Reeves. So I think they're being really, really much more useful and timely and smart, I would say, with the deployment of Ryan Reeves. You don't have to play him every game. And I think you're going to get the best set of Ryan Reeves when he's not in the lineup every night. And so it looks like he's going to draw out. McMahon's going to draw in. The back end, at least at the morning skate, Riley Brody, Legason, McCabe, and Benoit and Timmins. And it looks like Joseph Woll is going to make his 3rd consecutive starts. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it looks like he's stepped up and taken the starting position right now. We've said this before. They're probably going to ride with the hot hand. What's the point? Like, why not, right? This kid's young as could be. You're not going to mile him out or risk injury. I mean, Jesus, they're professional athletes in 2023. Their bodies are good to go. He's a young kid, and he's playing well. He's gaining experience, and he's gaining confidence. And, like we said a coming out of training camp. They got 2 goalies that have potential to compete, and whoever's the one that's showing that they're competing at that point in time is probably the one that's going to take the crease. So understandably so, Wall's back in for his 3rd game in a row. He's looked solid.
That was a cringe outing, I would say, for Ilya Samsonov on Friday, where, like, no disrespect to Jason Dickinson, who had the Hattie in that game, but a couple of those shots, I'm like, I'm pretty sure my beer league goaltender could have stopped that. I don't know what's gone on with Ilya Samsonov. I don't know if it's contention from, the meeting with the arbitrator in the offseason, but man, he has had his struggles big time. He's feeling it.
Well, he sure was at the beginning. He was struggling all right, and we've seen signs of him regaining some confidence and looking a little bit sharper. But yeah, it took, I don't know if you want to call it a step back there, that one game, and I don't think they were that bad. It was just one of those games where you were like, you didn't make that one extra save. Like, I feel bad for goalies sometimes, because sometimes it's just like that one save that squeaks in where you're like, God, I didn't think he was going to shoot, or the D-man's leg was blocking my view of the puck, and the guy's release these days are so quick, and it's like, damn it, that one little stop that maybe you normally would make can seriously be the difference between getting into overtime or winning that game by 1 or whatever the case is. So yeah, I don't think it was as bad as maybe some people were calling it out, but yeah, we would have wanted one extra save from Sammy there. But I again hope that he's working on his confidence, and I want to see him in there again, because that's the only way you're going to get it back. The more times you sit there and watch hockey, you're just going to sit there and your mind's going to churn, and you're going to work yourself up. So I want to see him in some games here soon. But like I said, it makes sense to ride Wool right now.
Would you make the decision before the game or after the game when it comes to Saturday in Boston? Like, you have to get Samsonov back in there, right? If you look at the Boston game, that's going to be 8 days after Samsonov has last played a game.
I know, and it's Boston too, right? So it's tough. It's opportunity. You get that win against Boston. That's a huge, pat on the back for Sammy, but also a chance to take a step back with a team like them to light them up. And it's hard, man. And
yeah.
On the flip side of the coin, you could throw Sammy in tonight, try to get him a win, and then have your hot starter right now, Wool, ready for Boston. That's another way to look at it. Obviously,
well, Wool's starting tonight, so
I know. I'm saying on the flip side, if you want to talk about what you could have done, but yeah, their mind's made up, and I don't know. Are you gonna ride Wool the whole weekend and just say, Sammy, you're backing up right now until you get notified otherwise? It's tough to say. No one's got a crystal ball. No one knows how it can work, but I do know that Sammy's not going to get any better or gain any confidence by sitting on the bench.
Yeah, it's an interesting combo, because after Saturday, they don't play till next Thursday against Ottawa. So we're talking it could be 2 weeks between starts potentially for Ilya Samsonov. And that's the fine line you got to ride as a head coach, right?
Yeah, and like the more we talk about it, the more like I'd probably be on board with them doing Sammy tonight and saving Wool for Saturday. It's but yeah, maybe they're just going to ride both and say, hey, we're going with who's hot. I mean, the season's long. Sammy's going to be fine, but they've decided not to do that. So I am actually interested on who they're going to go with on Saturday. And if it depends on if we get the win or not, like say we lose and Wool looks average, do you go right to Sammy? Or it's difficult, man. And it's a tough decision. I'm kind of glad I don't have to make it.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be an interesting one for Sheldon Keefe and company. Of note, too, Seattle has allowed 80 goals in 24 games. That's 3rd worst in the league. You hear that, but then I wonder if both teams could have a complete buy-in similar to the other night, where it's like, we're going to play defensive hockey tonight,
That was kind of rare, man. That was odd to see like a 1-0 the whole time, 1-1, go to overtime. But I'm going to say that is the exception. I'm going to hammer the over tonight. I think the Leafs are capable of doing anything on the defensive side. They are depleted on the back end. And Wool's looking good, but he's not necessarily a savior. And the firepower up front, we could light the lamp. So, like you say, Kraken let in a lot of goals. I'm hitting the over tonight. I know I should have saved that for the Betano wrap up, but hey, I'm saying it right now.
It's okay. We'll have other plays for that as well. There's a couple things I like in that Leafs game. The following interview is brought to you by Sober Carpenter. Hold the alcohol, keep the flavor. Enjoy a range of non-alcoholic beers so good that you'll think it's the real thing. Look for Sober Carpenter at Sobeys, Loblaws, Whole Foods, Metro, Farm Boy, and other retailers today. As you bring in today's guest, again from the TSN panel, we're 2 for 2 this week. It is James Duthie. JD, how's it going, buddy?
Good, boys. How you doing?
Fantastic. We were just having this conversation about the net mining, and it looks like Joseph Woll, you're going to be on the panel tonight. It looks like Joseph Woll is going to start this game. Do you think they need to find a way to sprinkle in a Samsonov on Saturday against Boston, or is that a decision you make after this one?
I think you make it after this one, and I don't think there's any immediate need. Like if that's in a big picture question, yes, you need to sprinkle him in, but I think you're at the point where it would be nice if one guy could play, 5 out of 6 or 4 out of 5, over a stretch that goes 15 games or something like that. Maybe Sheldon Keefe doesn't agree with that, but I just feel like this team has kind of been longing for a guy who's going to take the reins a little bit this season. And I think everything is pointed to Woll for most of it, right? I mean, he's had a couple of off nights, but he's been, measurably better than Samsonov through the entire season. And if he plays the way he played the other night or close to it tonight, I don't know why you wouldn't start him again on Saturday.
Yeah, James, how much do you think the Leafs are watching the standings? I mean, they're so used in the last few years to just be dominating the regular season, be right up there, 100+ point seasons. It's not really looking that way. I think their division's a lot stronger than they thought. Do you think when they're messing around with goaltenders trying to get Samsonov going, are they kind of losing sight of where they land in the standings these days?
I think there's something to that they're so used to it not being an issue. Like playoff races haven't really existed for the Leafs in like 5 years or something like that now.
Yeah.
And not saying there will be one this year, but I think that's a valid point. Like not a concern right now, and I don't think they're really concerned. But if we get to Christmas time and it's still, it's somewhat dicey where they're, technically out of a spot or just sitting in a wild card spot or whatever, then yeah, I think they have to start to get into who gives us a chance to win every single night, the best chance, and not worry about the other thing. I mean, if Joe Woll can go on a run like this and look like he's a first-string goalie, then why forget the tandem thing? You don't need the tandem thing anymore. He's your guy now, and you mix in Samsonov like you would any other backup. I think that's not rocket science to figure that out, right? But they're not at that position there. But if they get there and they have a first string, boom. There's no rule that said when you started the season on a tandem that it had to be a tandem all season long. If one guy was going to go grab it and become the starter, then let him go grab it. Of course, like I said, that hasn't happened yet, but I think it has the potential with Woll.
James, don't check your Twitter account. The analytics community is going to come after you for that take. But you're so right. Just ride the hot hand. I wanted to ask you, too, 5 regulation wins in 20 games. If you guys can believe it, that's as many as the lowly San Jose Sharks. How much should we read into that number, James?
I think it's significant. I mean, it's not a massive stat because they're winning enough in overtime and the shootout. But that we put that up graphically on our show the other night when we were doing the game on Tuesday night. And it's really shocking when you look at the top teams in the league who are all around 13, 12, 14 regulation wins, and you see Toronto tied at that night was 27th with San Jose and 5, and I think there was only 3 teams under them. That's shocking to look at because of what we just talked about, because they've been such a regular season juggernaut for the last half decade or so. So I think it does say something. And I mean, you guys talk about it for hours every morning, so I'm not going to say anything you haven't said. It's been just it's been such a strange season because they haven't been bad at all. And there have been some really positive things, but they just have left you wanting more. And I think that's sort of reflective in that number of 5 regulation wins. There's so many nights where, the Chicago game's probably the perfect example where it's 3-1 and you're playing Chicago and you go, this should be a 5-1 win with no doubt in the third period whatsoever. And they end up losing that hockey game. I think that sort of thing happens just a little bit too much for a team that should be much better than that.
For sure. James, switching gears a little bit, the Flames have got not just 1 or 2, they've got multiple defensemen coming up at UFA that could be potential trade bait. Since there's more than one, do you think there's potential of something to get done before the deadline? And also, having Tree Living's background with the Calgary Flames, do you think that helps or hinders him in trying to get something done with that organization?
I think it probably helps. And I love, you're hearing a lot, our guy Frankie Corrado was saying it yesterday that if you could find a way to get Zadorov and Tanev, that would be amazing. But I bet you Calgary's just chuckling at that, going, Okay, well, then what are you going to give us? Because if you're going to take two really good defensemen, I think, and this happens in every market, we underestimate what the price for that would be, right? I think that would be a monumental price for the Leafs to pay. I'd be really interested to see what the deal would look like, but I think it would be a lot. And I think that would take a little miracle to pull off both salary cap wise and asset wise for Toronto. Unless Calgary's going to ask for something that Leaf fans would go, what? You're not getting that. I'm not going to name names, but that's what Calgary will ask for. And so that would be fascinating. Like, would you be shocked if Calgary didn't ask for like Mitch Marner if you're going to want both of those defensemen? That's what they might ask for.
I think they're going to go young, like Minton, Cowan. That's where I would go. Okay,
but is Minton, Cowan, in a first rounder, is that going to do it? I don't know. I can't put my head on. I just know Calgary, I think, will ask for the world on something like that.
Yeah, not to speak for you, but we want those trades to happen in a couple months, right before trade center. No,
got it. None of this crap. Like no December trades. Sorry, Lee. Right on. What's the date this year? I don't even know. February, whatever the heck it is. And not even like the weekend before, just the morning of, right?
Yeah. That's what you want to save everything for.
That. So, Treliving might ruin my trade deadline that way, I think, and I wouldn't blame him because, I don't know how long Gio's going to be out, but they're going to have to do something here, at least make some sort of move, I think, before Christmas.
Do you think pulling up, I mean, it's an age-old question, it seems like now, but do you get anything done to get this team to an actual Stanley Cup contender without breaking up those big four guys? Like salary cap wise, just trade bait wise, how do you get something done where you make your team substantially better and you think we can run at the Cup this year, which it just consistently doesn't seem like they have it on the back end, but without breaking those four guys up, is there a way to even do that?
By the way, can you hear it? My wife has decided, just as the moment I went on, start like painting the room.
No, we're good. We're good.
What is like incredibly loud in my house, but this is what happens all the time. Well, look, if we're playing Fantasy World and they were able to get those two defensemen from Calgary with what you're talking about, just prospects and picks and all that, I think the team would look really different with a couple of guys like that on the back end. And you get back to, somebody like Gio playing in a third pair and playing, 8 or 10 minutes a night and a lot of pressure off Morgan Riley, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think it would take two things. It would take a substantial shakeup in the D where you add two large, really solid defensive defensemen, and B, that Joe Woll or Samsonov, but I'll say Woll as the most likelihood, becomes an, if not elite goaltender, a really solid, dependable number one goaltender. And the forwards, those core four forwards, all stay healthy. If all those things happen, then I think that come the spring, they're as legitimate as anybody else. The one thing about the East is there's some really good teams in the East, and it's a good conference, but there's not any juggernauts, I don't think, right now. And so I foresee a playoffs that could be, I think New Jersey will figure things out. I think the Rangers will be a force. Florida still looks really good. I don't know, Boston is overachieved so far and has stepped a little bit back right now. But I don't see anybody that you go, oh my goodness, we have no chance at beating those guys if those other things happen. As it stands right now, they don't look like a Cup contender whatsoever. Like if you were to say the contenders in the East right now, I'd name whatever 3-4 those teams I mentioned at the top, and the Leafs would stand sort of in that second tier with a bunch of others right now. And just because of that back, I don't think they've shown anything that would say otherwise. But again, it's the end of November, so.
Yeah, I know Odog always makes the comment that he doesn't think they're a serious team, and I tend to agree. And I think consistency is the big word we're looking for from this team, where it's like, James, you look at some of the better teams in this league, the Colorados, the whoever's, like, what you're going to get more times than not. Yeah, they're going to have their stinkers. Yeah, we overreact to shitty losses to Chicago, but more times than not, what you're going to expect. From this Leafs team, I have no clue who's going to come out against Seattle. I have no clue who's going to come out against Boston, and that's what scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, I think you speak for every single Leafs fan. Certainly
Yeah.
all the ones every day. And, we sit there and we're the same way. We sit there and do pregame shows for these games, and it's just really hard to know what you're going to get. If I was to take glass half full, maybe they've and this is a reach here, but maybe they figure out that playoffs is all that matters, and they're not going to put pedal to the floor for the entire season and break records for wins and points in the regular season. They're going to sort of meander their way through December, January, and start kicking it into gear maybe come March and be ready come playoff time. That's what that, I guess that's all you can hope for right now, is that they'll do something like that. But yeah, it's a really weird team to watch on a night to night basis. But you know what? It's a lot worse, right? There's still a ton of talent there. They're still in a decent position. It's not Edmonton where they're having to dig themselves out of some massive hole with a start like that. So I think it's it's all of them are really valid concerns, but I think they're still in a decent position with a ton of time to turn it around and make some roster changes that'll help.
If anything, it infuriates people more knowing this team has had such a sluggish start, and yet they have the record they do. Lastly, I just wanted to ask you, I know you're a family man. The All-Star game is coming to Toronto in a couple of months. How excited are you for that, to share that with your friends, your family, and everybody involved, and just sort of watching some of the best players in the world come to town here?
Yeah, I think it's great. I love it when it's in Canada. When I used to go, I'd love it more when it was in places like Nashville or whatever.
Oh,
right?
me too.
Because you wanted that road trip somewhere.
Yes.
All-Star is because I cover other sports, including the Super Bowl. I usually leave for Super Bowl on like the Saturday of All-Star weekend.
True.
I haven't checked the schedule this year, but it's usually the weekend before the Super Bowl. And so I get maybe like the Friday night, maybe I get the skills or something, and then I'm on a plane to, in this case, Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. So I'll miss that. I'm not a huge fan of the game itself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if I miss that, and the skills are they're hit and miss. That was, that's still one of the things that bothers me about, shouldn't say bothers me, because I love hockey players, that they're modest and team. I think that's why we adore them in the sport, but it doesn't really suit an all-star format where you want guys showing off and being brash and being bold. And that's the point where I still think we haven't quite figured out the skills. They've tried so many different things, but also, it's watch it for that one or two good moments that you get out of it.
Well,
But
we'll see
James,
what's in store.
what if one of the guys has a big goofy hat and some big fancy sunglasses on? Don't you just stand there and clap and just
I was
soak
there
it
for
all
that.
up?
I take responsibility, I think, more than credit. For back in the day, I pushed really hard for that shootout, like slam dunk contest style.
Yeah.
Back when it was formed, and then when it's semi flop, semi okay. Some of my colleagues were giving me the blame for that, but I still think there's potential. It just, like I said, that part of it. At least they're showing some sort of personality, right? And
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
It's
The
tough
draft's
one.
back too. We're looking forward to that. James, really, really appreciate your time today. We'll talk soon. Enjoy the game tonight, okay?
apologize to you and your listeners for the complete home renovation going on in the back.
Hey, your
okay.
wife's
You're all
working
good, man.
hard in the background. No complaints.
See you guys.
Thanks, James. The one and only James Duthie, graciously giving us some time here on the show. I feel so bad for him. He's going to Vegas for the Super Bowl, but still, yeah, it's intriguing, right? With All-Star Weekend, we talked about the draft's back too. Who's going to be the last pick? But I think I was more so angling for like the media party. Have you been to an All-Star Weekend before in the NHL?
No, I haven't done any extracurriculars with the NHL, so I'm excited to be there in early February and see what it's all about. Be behind the scenes. It'll be a different look, but pretty pumped. It's going to be in Toronto, and our show's Toronto-based. I think we'll be doing some live shows from it. It's going to be exciting, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah, we've got a lot planned actually. That it's in the works for All-Star Weekend, and I already got word of some parties happening, dude. Like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So bring a healthy liver for that weekend, Rosie. It's going to be a fest, man. Like I'm going to start training for that weekend like soon.
Oh boy, I'm gonna try to sneak a couple sober Carpenters in, and
Yeah,
maybe
nicely done.
try to keep it on the rails.
Fair enough. Brought to you by Betano, the 2023 EGR winner for both the Best Sportsbook Operator of the Year and Best In-Play Sports Operator Awards. The game starts now. So Seattle's in town for this one. The Kraken 8-10-5. The Leafs 11-6-3. The first of two meetings this season. Again, Toronto 3-1-0 all time. Couple things I'm looking at. I like the under in this game. I like an Austin Matthews goal because the guy's been on a milk carton lately. And I like the Leafs in regulation. I think it's a bigger story than James let on. They have 5 regulation victories in 20 games. Like you're there with the San Jose Sharks. They need to find that Mariano Rivera. If you're unfamiliar with the baseball term, he is the best closer in baseball history. They got to find that close in them. They got to find it, man. None of this bullshit. You're leading, you blow it, you win it in OT, you win in the skills competition. I want to see a consistent effort tonight. A team rallying cry with Gio going down.
Yeah, you want to start to see some regulation wins with, even covering the spread and whatnot. Couple goal wins, have a comfortable lead for once. But this eking it out barely against teams that are supposed to be mediocre compared to you, it's not good enough. And I'd like to see them take off, maybe blow a team out for once. I'd hate to not tail you, but I'm taking the over in this one. I like you said, the amount of goals that the Kraken have been let score on them, I think with the firepower of the Leafs, they could go off and anything can happen in their own zone, as we know. So I'm taking the over. I'm sorry, but I guess we can battle that out.
No, that's fine. We always don't have to agree, man. And I know Danny writes in regulation. That's bold, Nick. It is very bold considering this team never wins in regulation, but I'm trying to find the most value possible. And I think we're bound to see an effort for the Leafs we don't expect. Again, they're consistently inconsistent. I have no clue which team's going to show up on any given night, but on paper, they're better than Seattle. They've proven in the past they're better than Seattle. They got to flex their muscles. The Kraken have surrendered 80 goals in 24 games, but again, I think the attention to detail defensively could be there more tonight, again, with Toronto missing so many D. The Kraken know that number. That's why I'm trending towards the under. But I just, at the end of the day, I just want to see a Leafs victory. And I want to see something from Mitch Marner. I don't know if you saw this from the morning skate, but he's advanced from the birdcage. He's gone the full Jay Rosehill visor with the chin strap. That's a weird combination, man.
The chin guard. Yeah, it's just basically his regular bucket with a little protection around that jaw. The puck, it's a bad area to take a puck. It's just pure bone. It hits hard enough to explode your skin and get a bunch of zippers. It would be sore. I'm not going to rag on him for wearing that. It's I imagine he'll wear it maybe this weekend and then it'll be gone. At least it should be. But understandably, man, you take a hard shot right in the chin and blow yourself up. Frick, it's hard to eat. It's hard to open. And then, some guy blows his shoulder into that in the corner. It's no good. So a piece of protection. Hey, I don't mind it.
Sheldon Keefe on Woll getting a third consecutive start tonight. He just looks confident and comfortable in the net. He has not had a dip in either of those 2 games, the 2 good ones in a row. It makes that decision somewhat easy. I take that as shade towards Ilya Samsonov, but I'm gonna look at everything as shade. So I will ride with Woll. I just think they got to find a way to get Sammy going. Like, you need both guys. And I'll be honest, I'm pretty stunned that 20 games through this season, we've yet to see Martin Jones. So this is a great development to begin with because there hasn't been a goalie injury. Knock on wood as I say that. Damn it.
Yeah, it is what it is. At least you got a third string that's capable. And yeah, like Duthie says, man, there's nothing written in stone that you have to switch hit these guys. You call Woll your starter for the and let Sammy rest and not get miles on the body. Keep working with the goaltending coach, working in the gym, and when he does get his chance, maybe he'll have a little different mindset or a different feel in between the pipes and stand on his head and get him going for a while. It's fine with me, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Woll both games this weekend.
This is gonna set you off. Mr. P-Mail Bacon, can Betano get Rosie a computer?
There's one coming. I know it's laggy, man.
We've
done everything to
folks.
fix it. We'll be fixing it soon. That's a promise.
We're very aware of the technical issues on this podcast, and don't worry, they will be resolved. Rosie's got Windows 95 over there, but don't worry, it's going to be handled.
I got what they gave me. It's going to get fixed. Promise.
I said this a couple months back, or maybe it's like a month ago. I'm like, you want to piss somebody off? Tell them their computer shit or tell them their internet shit. Like, that's when you find like peak pissed off person. I'm not kidding, man. If you go to somebody's place, like, wow, your internet really is slow. And like, no, it's not. I got perfect performance.
Well, I ran the speed test and the numbers are good. So it's got nothing to do with that. I think it's just a little bit of hardware issue. I mean, we're getting to the point where we're linking in guys from Toronto. We got guys from the panel. I mean, we're overloading this baby. So we're going to step up the juice here very soon.
If you glitch in person, I think we have a big time problem. So we'll leave it at that, Rosie. I know you're off for the next couple. I mentioned on yesterday's podcast, Bruce Boudreau. Those are big skates to fill for him. He's filling in on Friday and Monday. We're going to have Gord Stellick and part of a roundtable coming up on Monday. So Gabby's filling in the next couple of days. I guess I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
Actually, this might be my last show with the glitching that's happening and my replacement. It's scary times. I'll be very on edge, waiting to see how it goes and see if my chair is still available to me on Tuesday.
Well, luckily for you, you have a full no movement clause because we have Kyle Dubas working for us, and he's like, you know what? Everybody and their mother, producer Aaron's got a no movement clause, so everybody's safe at this company.
Oh, good. Thank goodness. Well, have a good weekend, everybody, and enjoy Gabby.
Love it. A dejected Jay Rosehill with technology not on his side right now. He's losing his mind. It's okay, folks. We'll figure this out. That's Jay Rosehill. Many thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys have been fantastic once again this week. Again, one final reminder, smash that like button. Hit us with a subscription as well at the Leafs Nation 401, at the Leafs Nation 401. Just search Leafs Morning Take. Wherever you find your podcast as well will pop up. And many thanks to producer Aaron, as well as James Duthie, our guest here on the show today. So it's Nick Alberga and Bruce Boudreau tomorrow. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga, and we'll talk on Friday.
Thank you for watching Leafs Morning Take. Hit that subscribe button and never miss a show. And for more, visit theleafsnation.com. TheLeafsNation.com. If you don't know how to spell the Leafs Nation, you know what I mean? But hey, sometimes you never know.